Thanks everyone for joining us. We say this every time, but this is a fun way for us to spend the morning. Ignore meetings and emails for a little bit and just talk Star Wars. So thank you guys. We're gonna get through all 5 rounds. So we're gonna dive right in to make sure that we get to everything. So first up is Volker from Star Wars Figurin.
Hi, Patrick. Can you hear me?
I can, yes. How are you doing,
Okay.
Volker?
Good. How are you? I've got some troubles here with the camera, I guess. Trying to fix that. So in the meantime, just going by audio, I guess.
No problem.
So about the first question, thanks a lot for listening to the fans about the petition. So I'm kind of fell off the chair when I saw it.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for that.
Absolutely.
And
thank you for liking it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great product. Looks like you guys nailed it, really.
Oh, great.
I'm trying to look up my questions right now, still working on the problems here. I know the first question was related actually to the product itself, because other people have already mentioned it. Usually the X-Wing comes with a droid, which I kind of totally forgot in the petition, so I'm not going to stretch it here, but are there plans maybe to add it in, or?
Yeah, not in the set itself. Again, we mentioned this on the stream. Previous X-Wings haven't included a figure, and so we really wanted to prioritize that Anton America figure and not only loose, but also get him on a card, because we know how important that is for fans. So that was kind of the priority. In terms of the droid, we're certainly aware of it. We've kind of read the comments from fans. Maybe that'll be the next petition. But it's definitely something we could see come to the line in the future, but nothing to announce at this point.
Okay, thought so. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Victoria from Victoria's Cantina. Hey, Victoria.
Hey, everybody. Good morning. It's great to see everyone here. So firstly, guys, thank you so much for doing things like FanFest. It's awesome to see you guys continue to interact with the fan community and engage with us. And we appreciate the opportunity to maintain a dialogue with you guys. So thank you so much.
No problem.
So fans are really happy to see the fan vote returning to the vintage collection. And the 5 choices you announced are some of the most popular in-demand figures that have been in the line, and it makes it very difficult to choose just one. That said, why not release all 5 of them, and they would be the hottest refresh wave of all time, and we would love you forever if you did. Patrick, we would love you forever.
And Eric.
And Eric.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Currently, obviously, the plans are for the winner of that fan vote to come into the line, and not into mainline or the refresh waves. It would be as a Pulse and Shop Disney exclusive. So purely additive to the line. It's not taking a slot away from anything else. Those are the current plans. We'll see what happens in the future. And certainly we've seen comments like this online. I think the biggest reason is those refresh waves, those specialty waves, are intended for, we've always said this, for newer fans. It's for the main characters, and they've done well serving that purpose, bringing new fans in. So with the main characters that kids or newer fans would recognize. So that's kind of the goal of those waves. Obviously, we also have a couple slots in the mainline waves for repacks, and those are for the existing fans. We've traditionally kept those focused on super articulated figures that would be new on a vintage card back. I'm trying to think of examples like the Luke Skywalkers last year from the 2019 SDCC exclusive. But that being said, we've done some reissues in mainline before, like the VC45 figure last year. And so it's something we could certainly look at doing in the future.
Awesome. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Sébastien from Planet Star Wars.
Hello. Thank you. Planet Star Wars in French, yes.
Yes.
Thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
I would like to know what are the biggest improvements on General Merrick X-Wing compared to the previous version of the ship, and can we expect a new pilot for each new version in the future?
Yeah, so the improvements on this vehicle, basically, there's no new tooling on it just because nothing was needed. It's updated what our designer calls Deluxe Deco, updated cockpit labels, basically everything that's needed to make it accurate to the Rogue One entertainment. In terms of new pilots in the future, yeah, it's something, we'll see how this one does, but it's definitely something that could continue in the future. We saw the importance of including that figure with the vehicle. And so it's something, if this one does well and fans enjoy it, that we could see continuing in the future.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, no problem. David from Endor Express.
Hey, good morning, guys. My question is about the Bad Batch. You guys been releasing or revealing a few along the way, and I was just kind of wondering, what were the thoughts behind doing that versus just getting them all out? Because we just got the first two. The new show starts in a month, less than a month. It'd be kind of great to have them all for people to be buying. But so I was just wondering if you could talk about your decisions behind stretching them out.
Yep, absolutely. I think it's always a balancing act. And it's funny, in a different interview, we had a question about Bo-Katan and getting her out earlier. And so if we had made that whole wave Bad Batch and she was later, then we'd kind of have the flip side. So I think it's all about that balance. And it's about, obviously, Bad Batch is a big beat now. But we wanted to get those Bo-Katan out. I'm trying to remember who's in that wave. I think it's another Mandalorian character. Maybe not. But in any case, it's all about kind of making sure we get that balance across. Obviously, in the distant past, we've done themed waves. I think the current thinking is that there might be some fans who just aren't that into Bad Batch, and we want to make sure that we have something for them as well. Awesome. Cool. And Mark closing us out on round one. And Mark, I will say, before you went on video, I loved whatever image that was you had. I don't know if that's a previous version of Mark.
That's a very old version of Mark.
That's great. Awesome. Mark.
Thank you. Obviously, you announced the gaming greats for the vintage collection, and that seems to have gone down really well. Are your plans to only cover more modern games like Squadrons, Fallen Order, Battlefront, or will you think about heading back to, I'm thinking specifically the 90s, because that was such a great era for gaming. Are there any plans to go back? Because I'd like to see a giant AT-AT, the giant pixel AT-AT from Empire from 82. That's what I really want. But any plans to go back?
So while we don't have any kind of announcements, at least at the moment, for kind of the future of the gaming grades and the future of gaming figures in general, obviously they are doing well, and we're hoping that they continue to do well. So there is a huge history of gaming in Star Wars, so there's a lot to choose from. It's certainly possible that we could go all the way back to those original games, with in the 90s and the 80s for those characters. So it is certainly in the realm of possibility that we could go back to those. It's just a matter of what's appropriate, what characters, especially as we're moving forward since we have so much new entertainment coming out, we have to kind of prioritize certain things, but certainly possibility.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Cool. Awesome. All right, back to the top with Volker.
Okie dokie, still working on the video.
No problem.
So next question is about the web blasters used on the 6-inch Zero. Supposedly it's using the Webley flare gun that is also used on the Boba Fett. And I happen to notice that there is, some glitches, some errors on the 3.75-inch Boba Fett, on the 6-inch Fett, and now on the Zero as well. Will these issues be addressed, or you're going to leave these blasters as they are?
So I may have misspoke a little bit on the live stream. So I think I was more just referencing the fact that the blaster is inspired by Boba Fett's. So Zero's for this one is actually a newly tooled blaster based off the reference that we had from the Mandalorian. So while it aesthetically looks like Boba Fett's blaster, it is a new sculpt that we developed for that character specifically, that we got from the reference. So the blaster that we have with Zero in particular is accurate to what we have reference on that were supplied to us. So that is, and also from even the TV show, as we were looking at that as well.
Okay, well, the problem is in the stock and in the grips, the Webley flare gun has a special, very noticeable grip and stock, and it's not basically found on the Zero, and it's not to be found on the Boba Fett.
Yeah, I'll bring that back to the team and see what we can look at to see if there's updates that need to be made.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Cool. Victoria, back to you.
So it's great to see the Black Series helmet program continuing. I just got my Mandalorian helmet and it is beautiful. I love everything about it. One of the first ones you guys did was Kylo Ren. I think that was the very first one. And lately it's been selling for $500 to $1,000 within that window on the secondary market. could you consider going back and reissuing that, or possibly repainting, retooling it to do a Rise of Skywalker version?
Yeah, so it's certainly a possibility of something that we could do in terms of reissuing it. We currently don't have any plans, at least at the moment, just because we do have so many like great helmets to choose from, at least that are brand new, that we would like to look into as well. But in terms of that figure, or that one in particular, we know that was basically the first helmet that we did, and it looks really, really cool. And if we were to update it to the Rise of Skywalker, would require new tooling, because it does have kind of an updated sculpt with the kind of cracking as he reassembled it. So it would require new tooling there, but that could be a really cool update, and it's something we could bring back to the team and see what their thoughts are.
Cool. Thank you.
No problem.
Awesome. Cool. All righty. Up next, Sebastian.
Yes, we have a new action figure with Lando in Return of the Jedi, with a whole new face. So is it more difficult to recreate the face of an actor for the first time, or to sculpt differently a face that already exists in the line?
It's definitely more difficult to sculpt the face brand new. There's a lot more development that has to go into that. There's a lot more work. When you have an existing sculpt, even if it is one that we did a while ago, it's at least a very good base to start on. All the landmarks are already there in terms of getting it to look like the actor or actress. So definitely starting from scratch on a new actor or actress is definitely it's more time consuming and more difficult. But luckily right now we have great technology and fantastic sculptors to be able to get it as accurate as possible.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
Cool. David, you're up next.
All right. So it's great to see the Rogue One X-Wing get some love finally. Wondering if you guys can maybe tackle the TIE Striker in a proper way.
Yeah, no, it's a good suggestion. Again, kind of we've talked about how Rogue One, especially for the vintage community, is one of their favorite movies, and either adjacent to or kind of seen as part of the OT. And so that's kind of what inspired I think the love for Rogue One across both scales. This kind of mini beat we're doing for Rogue One. It's definitely an option. There's a lot of good options for vehicles in the future, whether through HasLab or something else. So something we'll certainly take into account.
Thanks. And then still a request for Bodhi Rook to finish the team out.
For Black Series or Vintage or both?
Black Series, but
yeah,
both. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Vintage has a couple others, but yeah, no, definitely aware of that. Cool. All right, Mark, back to you.
Thank you. The antenna on Aura Sing, you mentioned that you made it slightly longer, so you were able to make it the way you did. How have you made it firm enough so that it doesn't snap, but also that it's still safe enough for kids to play with should they get hold of it? Because I guess it's a balance.
Yeah, so that's part of why we had to make some of the adjustments that we did. If we kept it at the original how thin it was when we brought it to kind of our factories in China for some of these, it just got way too thin, and there's issues with like QA concerns with it snapping, especially as it's being kind of loaded into the blister, or even just taking it out. Like we had a sample that it wasn't glued in, and it will be glued in the future, but the minute I took it out, it just snapped off and came off, and that was without it being glued in. So now that we have it glued in, it'll have that. And part of the reason why it had to be made thicker too was so it wasn't a kind of safety concern. So we had to make it a little bit softer. We had to kind of round off the edge a little bit. So there's definitely some design consideration that had to go into making sure that it was not only aesthetically appropriate, but also appropriate for like kids and stuff like that. So it's not a danger.
Thank you.
Cool.
No problem.
Awesome. Volker, round 3, back to you.
Okay, that's an easy question here. It's the vintage gaming grades line. You showed the Scout Trooper without his blaster pistol in the mock-up. Will this blaster pistol be added, or is it going to come without the pistol?
So at the moment, it only comes with his shock baton. In the game, he pretty much only uses the shock baton. That's pretty much his purpose as an enemy in the game. So at the moment, he does not come with a blaster.
Okay.
Cool. Victoria, back to you.
So at FanFest, you guys showed us glimpses of the Black Series figures that had been previously shown as pipeline reveals. They all look incredible, and it is great to see continued focus on The Mandalorian and the Clone Wars. That being said, since we are in a bit of a slow period before all of these shows and all this content starts to come out in these coming years, do you foresee yourselves catching up on some of the critical characters that may have been missed from recent films, such as Kira in her Kessel outfit from Solo, Luke in his Crate outfit, or Emperor Palpatine from The Rise of Skywalker, just to name a few?
Yeah, so while we don't have anything that we can announce or any comment on right now for anything that's unreleased or unrevealed, we do use this kind of downtime in between entertainments when we are either waiting on assets or waiting for release of a particular piece of entertainment to kind of backfill certain characters that are missing from other pieces of entertainment. So, and especially now that we have this kind of new collection focused Black Series line with like focusing on the specific pieces of entertainment, it is something that we would like to start to do in building out each of those individual collections. We think that that would be really fun. And yeah, so we don't have anything in particular to comment on right now, but definitely keep an eye out for like our future streams and stuff like that. And for future announcements, we'll have some more stuff coming.
Great. Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, no problem.
Cool. Sebastian, you're up next.
Yes, many Black Series figures have been adapted to the vintage collection format, like the Free Trooper of the Gaming Great Waves. So can we imagine the reverse in the near future with, for example, General Merrick in the Black Series line?
Yeah, no, like I kind of mentioned earlier, I'm not sure if it was in here in another session, but it really helps when either one line can get to a figure first because we're able to use a lot of the kind of same production things, so we're not starting from scratch on a particular figure. So when Black Series gets to it first, while we may not be able to use the exact files on Vintage Collection, we're able to use a lot of the same colors. We're able to use like maybe the likeness and just scale it down. And the reverse is true for characters like General Merrick, where it appeared in the Vintage Collection first. And like we don't have like anything that we can announce, at least at the moment. It's something that does help when it's there first. So it could work in the reverse.
Okay, great. So I want my Merrick figure next year. Thank you.
Cool. David, you're up.
This is an easy one. Aura Singh is obviously a character that made her debut in The Phantom Menace. How do you decide which packaging you're going to go with?
So we actually did discuss this kind of at length internally about which one we wanted her to appear in. When she appeared in The Phantom Menace, it was kind of a blink and you'll miss it cameo. She definitely had a much bigger presence and a much bigger appearance in the Clone Wars. So we felt like, and she had the exact same outfit from, at least in that kind of orange jumpsuit that she has. So we used the assets from The Phantom Menace because it's the actual actress. We always do the realistic interpretation. So it's based off of those assets, but we decided to put her in the Clone Wars because she just has a bigger presence there.
Thank you.
No problem.
Mark, back to you.
Round three. I think you guys have touched on this already. Obviously, the Anton America X-Wing looks fantastic. All in for that. And I think you might have already answered this. This might be redundant. The ship comes with a carded Merrick. Will it come with a bagged Merrick as well?
It won't, just the carded one. We had to work hard compared to past vehicles to get that figure in there. We also had to work hard to get it carded, including 2 figures. One of them carded just wouldn't be in scope.
Somewhere down the line, though, possibility of mainline.
There's no current plans to do it, but we're not closing off the possibility. But currently, in our lines for the upcoming years, this is the only place to get the figure, and it's always that balance. We wanted the figure in there. We can't put it both in here and in mainline. If we put it in mainline, it'll probably it'll be produced the same as other figures, and so it'll be overproduced, and so it's always that balance.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, back to the top. Volker, kick us off on round 4.
All right, Merrick is there where he belongs, right there in the box. So the next question is not going to be that pretty. I kind of noticed that there's a lot of comments flying around on the web about all the repacks again, and a lot of fans don't seem to be too happy. So I was actually wondering, I know it must be from a budget standpoint that you're deciding to put these back in on the shelves here. Question is, would it make more sense maybe to kit bash kind of figures and bring us like figures that haven't been released before to save costs and just use some parts that have been produced before instead of giving us the repacks and then start all these stupid comments again?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. And again, kind of those repack waves, they're intended for new collectors, new fans. I think we launched them in 2019. If you look at 2018, there were only 3 waves over the course of the year. And so we're maintaining or increasing the volume of new characters. And we've said publicly, take those specialty waves out of it, ignore them. In 2021, we will have more new characters in the vintage collection than any year since the vintage collection launched. And so again, without those specialty waves, we're seeing more and more newness. Those, if you like them, they're purely a bonus. If you don't like them, just ignore them. Because again, it's intended to get the main characters out there to bring new fans in. And honestly, they're succeeding at that goal. In terms of kit bash characters, that's certainly something we are doing. I'm trying to think of some examples, but obviously the Leia Bespin Escape, for example, was not a 100% newly tooled figure. And by doing that, that's one of the ways we're able to get more characters out there. If we only limited ourselves to 100% new sculpts, we just wouldn't be able to put that much out there, less than we're doing now. So, and honestly, like the Anton America X-Wing is a good example. We've read a lot of great, it seems like that's being very well received. And that is purely a repaint. And so it was kind of and obviously, you started the petition, Volker. A lot of fan sites commented on it. It didn't need to be 100% new tool. It was something we were able to do and get a really cool vehicle out there for the fans. And we take the same approach with the figure line.
Maybe you should do it more often then.
Cool.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Victoria, you're up.
So during FanFest, you noted that Rogue One would be seeing a little bit more attention since this year is its 5th anniversary. Some of your vintage collection Rogue One figures do not yet have photoreal, and Jyn Erso, Cassian Andor, and we're still awaiting heavy hitters like Tarkin and Krennic, specifically from Rogue One. And I suppose rather than a question, perhaps a suggestion might be those delightful 3-packs that you guys sometimes do with various figures in order to update some of those previous Rogue One figures and perhaps stick new ones in there to make them more enticing. And the same could be done perhaps for some of the Black Series figures 3 3/4 that were released from 2013 to 2016.
Yeah, I never thought I'd see anyone request the Wave 1 Jyn Erso again. But no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, Rogue One, as we've said, we know it's close to fans' hearts. We're going to see more in Rogue One this year, and we'll certainly see more Rogue One, regardless of what happens this year in both scales in the future. We're definitely aware of the missing Rogue One vintage figures. You mentioned Krennic and Tarkin. Obviously, there's also Baze and Bodhi. And so it's just always, again, balancing that versus, all the new entertainment. We know there's a lot of characters from Mandalorian that are highly desired. I'm sure the same will be true for future entertainment. And so it's always just kind of keeping an eye on the number of slots we have and putting the best possible characters in those slots, while acknowledging kind of the realities of, some are newly tooled, some are repacks for new fans, etc.
Awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. Sebastian, you're up.
Yes, among the new figure you have shown last time, we have Tech from the Bad Batch. Is there a difference between between a character from a movie or an animated series when you have to adapt it in an action figure?
Yeah, so there is a difference between the two. So when we get in assets from like a movie or a live action piece of entertainment, we try to match that exactly as it's seen in the show. When it comes to animated features, because things are either simplified or stylized or just a little bit more cartoony, I guess, in the animation, we normally do kind of the realistic interpretation of that character. So we will look at reference of like, okay, if this is Tech, for example, there were a lot of elements of him. They were pulled inspiration from like existing troopers and stuff like that. So we brought in that. those kind of elements to try to play up some of those more realistic details so that they sit in a proper line with the rest of our figures. And when it comes to like the likeness in particular, we normally do kind of a realistic interpretation of that face so that it doesn't look quite as cartoony. We still try to maintain all like the similar aesthetic to that original character, but we try to make it a little bit more realistic, as if like an actual actor was cast to play that character, basically.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
Cool. David, you're up.
So seeing Zero in the Black Series line was really exciting for me, as that was like a really great character for me. But since he only appears in one episode and kind of cameos another, does that mean we're just going to get the rest of that Prison Break team, hopefully? I guess I'm assuming yes, but I'm running out of questions that are getting answered.
So at least with him in particular, he was one of the coolest designs, especially from that episode. He was really slick looking, a really cool looking droid character. And with the Mandalorian being as hot as it is, we're always looking for characters to do in the Mandalorian in between season 1 and 2. We don't have anything that we can like announce or talk about right now, especially since we can only speak to things that have been like officially released or revealed. It's certainly a possibility that we could look at more characters like that as we start to build out that collection in particular. So yeah, the Droid Zero is definitely the one that seemed to be the coolest looking one. It was one of the ones that we wanted to focus on first.
Cool, thanks.
No problem.
Awesome. Mark, end of round 4.
End of round 4. The Wedge premium helmet, the audio that's within that, is that direct from the film with the music, or is it just the sound effects and the vocals, you know, to give you that proper in-depth feel? Which is the sound you've used?
I'm trying to remember if we had the music. I believe it's just the sound effects from the film. So it's supposed to try to immerse you in the scene like you are Wedge. So it has kind of like, now you are Wedge from his point of view. So you'll hear like Luke's chatter coming in, whereas previously you were Luke and you heard like kind of Wedge's chatter. So it kind of shifts the viewpoint from his point of view now. So it'll be very similar in terms of the offering to that other release. It'll just be from Wedge's point of view.
Brilliant. Thank you.
No problem.
Cool. All right, final round. Volker, kick us off.
Okay, I got a question and I have to squeeze something else in about distribution. We have the vintage 96 figures not showing on our market here again. Any chance you can look into this would be highly appreciated. And the actual question is, Eric kind of mentioned it, that you guys are using 375-inch and 6-inch, and you're going up and down in scale-wise and bringing it into the different lines. So basically, I think he kind of answered already. So there's a chance that we can see more 6-inch detailed like figures in 375-inch.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, since we have we don't have like plans specifically that we can talk to right now, but when we do, especially since we work in ZBrush, so we work in digital sculpts, we can kind of scale those up and down. There are changes that have to be made between the scales, just because of the feasibility of those characters at the different scales, but it certainly helps to have kind of a jumping off point that we don't have to start purely from scratch on every character when we have a sculpt. So being able to utilize elements between the two is something that we do and is something that we are going to continue to do.
And certainly just piggybacking off that, it doesn't impact tooling at all. And so it's still 100% new tooling, regardless if we kind of port it from one scale to the other. And that's often one of our biggest constraints.
So in case we ever want to see a good looking Fennec in 375-inch, it would be an awesome figure. And that's what you're saying, right?
Fennec would definitely be great in either scale.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Thank you.
All right. No problem. Victoria.
So the vintage collection gaming greats that you revealed during FanFest look terrific. I'm especially excited about the packaging and how you guys created new colors to use for the name pills and background. I think that looks really, really cool. So the four figures that you revealed consist primarily of repainted and retooled figures. Going forward, can we expect that some of the gaming greats might include all new sculpts, or will this line primarily focus on repaints and retools? And can you let us know if what the numbering system looks like for these figures?
So in terms of the kind of gaming great line in particular, the gaming greats primarily focus on kind of repaints and retools, but that does not mean that we won't do newly tooled characters. So the newly tooled characters are more appropriate for like mainline releases. So that's where those will kind of live more. So as we've seen kind of with the Black Series and hopefully continuing with the Vintage Collection, the gaming greats characters have seemed to do very well. And that certainly helps us to be able to pitch other characters forward. I've been a huge proponent for trying to get gaming characters into the line in particular. And so while we probably won't see newly tooled as part of gaming greats, that doesn't mean that we won't do newly tooled gaming characters.
Great. And the numbering system on those?
Oh, yeah. So I think Patrick has mentioned this previously. Outside of like HasLab, every Vintage Collection figure will have a number on the card. I don't think we have specific numbers, at least not, I don't off the top of my head about what those are, but they will be numbered. So pretty much everything outside of the HasLab will be numbered.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Problem.
Cool. Awesome. All right, Sebastian, you're up.
So my last question was already asked, so I will improvise one. Will the Gaming Greats Trooper in the Vintage Collection will have an unpainted Temuera Morrison face like the new Trooper in the Black Series line? And why did you put this unpainted face of Temuera Morrison on the Black Series Trooper?
So a lot of times when we do that, it's normally because we have a helmet that we know that in the future we will want to have removable, and we don't want to retool that helmet for the sake of a non-removable figure. So for characters that don't have removable helmets, but we wanted to have the helmet available for non-removable later, that's what we do there is we will put in a kind of generic head underneath to basically fill the void to make sure that hopefully the helmet just is appropriately placed on the figure. But then also kind of moving forward, we have that tool available for when we do a version that potentially has a removable helmet version of them. So that's kind of what we've been doing lately. And it's all about us trying to like smartly tool these things so that we can hopefully get even more figures out there with more variation going forward. And we don't have to necessarily spend that tooling dollars on something that we could have already had from the beginning.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Problem.
Cool. Awesome. David?
I am out of questions, so I'm going to ask whether we're going to have some new announcements for May the 4th.
Yep, the short answer is yes. So I think we mentioned on our FanFest live stream that we would be back with a live stream on May the 4th. I think we did one last year. I think that might have been the kickoff live stream. I think that might have been the first live stream for Star Wars and for Hasbro, the first Friday live stream. But there will definitely be a live stream on May the 4th with lots of new exciting news to come then. So stay tuned.
Awesome. Thanks.
Absolutely. Mark, bring us home.
Doing my best. Right, I've got to work this properly so it makes sense. So Pipeline has been a success. People seem to enjoy it. And you mentioned at FanFest that you do speak to fans and you like the collaboration and the ideas, positive and negative, and you take it all home and chew over it. So given that, how far out are you comfortable to announce Pipeline releases? Because I'm thinking if you're talking to fans and one day somebody has a wizard idea that you go, bing, you won't necessarily want to contradict a Pipeline announcement, but what do you get what I mean? Is there a balance between the two?
Yeah, so I think in terms of how far out, I think this last round of Pipeline reveals, we said that they would come out either later in 21 or early 22. I think they're all actually public now. I think they're all late 21. But yeah, it's kind of that time frame, like, up to and approaching a year, whereas product reveals just based on product sample availability are usually, I don't know, 3 to 4 months out, something like that. And that's something that's changed a bit over the past few years based on kind of new processes and sample availability. We used to reveal the product further in advance. That's just not possible anymore. And so pipeline reveals give us a way to get that information out sooner. With both pipeline reveals, if they continue, and regular product reveals, they're usually pretty baked. There's usually not much we're going to do to change them. Obviously, one example is I think it was 2019, the Vintage Collection Darth Revan repack. We heard the strong feedback there, and so we swapped that out for, I think it was Yavin Princess Leia. So I don't think we would ever reveal something and then change it if we thought something was better. I think it would only be the very rare situation where we reveal something. There's some strong feedback in the negative direction, and we think it's the right thing both for us and the fans to do to swap that out for something else.
Brilliant.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you guys. Well, that brings us to the end. We said this at the top, but thank you guys so much. Again, this is a fun way for us to spend the morning. And I know, I think we're in some different time zones here. Obviously, Sébastien and Volker are several hours ahead. So hopefully it's not too late there. Mark as well. I don't know, David and Victoria, maybe you're in North America, maybe not, but these things have gotten really global, which is great. So thank you guys for taking the time, whatever time zone it may be. And we look forward to doing one again soon.
Same here.
Yes.
Thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Appreciate
Thank you,
it so much. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.